All over the US, many grew up watching their communities bleed. Too many friends buried, too many vigils attended, too many mothers crying for their children. But behind every trigger pulled, behind every life lost, there's a question we've stopped asking. Where do all these guns come from? Now, while I can't tell you where all these illegal firearms come from, I can tell you about an old urban legend. From LA to Detroit, from Baltimore to Chicago, all across the US, it's all the same. Trains loaded with military-grade weapons mysteriously idling in high-crime communities, waiting to be found. Sometimes that cargo is even unloaded into the alleys of those very same communities for easier access. Many have speculated that the government or police are involved with flooding the streets with these weapons. I don't think this is just an urban legend. Hello strangers, welcome back to the Strange Bar and Grill. I'm your host, JP. Today I'll be telling a story about gun trains and how weapons are distributed illegally throughout the US. This is a wild one, so stick around. For decades, Chicago has been infamous for its gun violence. Since 2013, police have recovered nearly 7,000 crime guns each year, but Chicago has some of the strictest gun laws in the country. Something's not adding up. The reality that we don't talk about is that Chicago has no gun stores within city limits. So how do thousands upon thousands of firearms flood the streets year after year? The answer reveals a disturbing truth about America's gun crisis that stretches far beyond one city. The University of Chicago Crime Lab found that approximately 60% of the guns recovered from gang-related crimes between 2009 and 2013 were purchased in other states. Indiana alone supplied nearly one-third of these weapons. The iron pipeline of guns flowing from states with weak gun laws to cities with stronger restrictions is well documented. But there's more to this story, a darker reality lurking beneath official statistics. A reality that connects Chicago to Baltimore, Detroit, Los Angeles, and cities across America. In April of 2015, a freight train would stop and idle in a Norfolk Southern rail yard on Chicago's south side. What residents discovered inside the train wasn't merchandise or electronics. It was box after box of brand new Ruger firearms. Over 100 guns were stolen in a single night. But were they actually stolen though, or were they left there on purpose to be taken? You'll soon understand why I ask that question. Only 16 of those 100 or so weapons were ever recovered. The rest vanished into the streets. One was found at a shooting scene, another beside the bed of an attempted murder suspect, a third in a home alongside 429 bags of heroin. This wasn't an isolated incident. Since 2013, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives has documented more than 150 incidents of firearms stolen from freight trains in Chicago alone. These trains frequently sit idle for days in Chicago rail yards, many located in or adjacent to some of the city's poorest neighborhoods. Norfolk Southern's yards on the south side borders areas with the highest rates of gun violence. But some in these communities tell a different story. One that's harder to document, but impossible to ignore. I've heard it too many times to dismiss the mysterious appearance of gun crates in Black neighborhoods. In Chicago's South Side, former gang members describe a disturbing pattern. Crates of weapons appearing in alleyways and abandoned lots, often before dawn. 6:30 in the morning, someone knocked on my door, one former resident said. There's a crate of guns in the alley. Not one or two pistols, entire crates of fully automatic weapons, military-grade firearms that would be nearly impossible for civilians to legally obtain.
I've been in Chicago where a person came into my house and knocked on the door to come and get me early in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, and said, come with me, man, it's a crate of guns in the alley. And I got up and ran out there, and sure enough, there was a crate of guns.
And these aren't isolated incidents. I've heard of similar accounts across multiple cities. In Detroit, where gun violence has devastated communities for generations, similar stories emerge. residents describe finding military-grade weapons hidden in abandoned buildings and vacant lots, often in neighborhoods where children play. In Baltimore's western districts, crates mysteriously appearing near rail crossings. In Los Angeles, weapons turning up in neighborhoods bordering industrial zones. Always in the early morning, always in communities plagued by poverty and violence, always with no clear source.
Dresta and BG Knockout.
Shout out, CPT.
They were talking about how when they were young, they were saying that they would find these crates of guns.
I heard from an OG that they used to find barrels of guns along the train tracks.
Yeah.
Just sitting there, Uzis, like fully automatic guns, bro, like just sitting there for people to find. Little kids in the ghetto throwing rocks on the train tracks, what they do, stumble across a whole barrel of gun.
So you think the government left them there? Have you heard of any such thing?
Mm-hmm.
In Long Beach?
Not in Long Beach, but Watts, Compton. Yeah, they bring a train out there just full of guns.
So this is a real thing?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow. So you think the government is like, okay, we're gonna leave these guns in this high crime neighborhood and they're just gonna kill each other?
Population control.
The pattern repeats in Baltimore, where guns flow into the city through what locals call the Iron Pipeline. According to a 2020 report, nearly 2/3 of crime guns recovered in Baltimore came from outside of Maryland. A former gang member described how weapons would routinely arrive from out-of-state dealers, sold out of car trunks within blocks of police stations. Even Los Angeles, despite California's strict gun laws, sees thousands of illegal firearms each year. In one notable case from 2019, authorities recovered over 1,000 weapons from a single residence in the affluent Holmby Hills neighborhood, an arsenal feeding the street violence in the poorer parts of the city. Gerard Damien Cyans, 56 years old, was arrested on suspicion of manufacturing, distributing, transporting, or selling assault weapons. Public records show that Cynthia Beck, a Los Angeles real estate mogul, resides at that home. But get this, Beck reportedly has 3 daughters with oil tycoon J. Paul Getty's son, Gordon Getty. Public records list Cyans as a household member for several other addresses linked to Beck. So what does this Gerard Damien Cyans have to do with a connection to an oil tycoon? And why are they distributing guns in the poorer neighborhoods? Let me know what you think of that in the comment section. That's bizarre. Now, the question becomes not just how these guns move between states, but how they end up concentrated in our most vulnerable communities. Some official investigations point to straw purchasers, people who can pass background checks buying guns for those who can't legally possess them. In 2021, the Department of Justice launched cross-jurisdictional strike forces targeting illegal firearms trafficking in Chicago and 4 other major cities. But this doesn't explain the full picture. The geography of gun violence in American cities maps almost perfectly onto historically red-line neighborhoods, communities that have faced decades of disinvestment, segregation, and poverty. Which brings us back to those trains. Chicago is America's freight rail hub, with some 500 trains vying daily for limited track access. Many sit idle for days in neighborhoods designed to be forgotten. Away from security cameras, away from public attention, away from accountability. For those living with the daily toll of gun violence, the question isn't academic. If Chicago recovers 7,000 crime guns annually, how many more remain on the streets? Who profits from this deadly commerce? And why do our solutions always focus on those caught with guns rather than the systems that put them there? One thing's clear. Guns aren't manufactured in apartment kitchens. They don't materialize out of thin air. Every weapon has a path, a pipeline that delivers it from legal commerce into illegal hands. Law enforcement points to documented trafficking networks. In 2021, federal indictments charged individuals with straw purchasing firearms in Indiana that were later used in Chicago crimes. But if you press officials about these mysterious crates, about the trains that repeatedly stop in vulnerable neighborhoods, you'll get hit with a wall of silence. It happened in 1990 and again in 1999, a longtime Chicago resident explained. Just crates sitting there, full of automatic weapons. Who leaves crates of guns in alleys? Who benefits from flooding our streets with weapons? Not us, not our children. The same questions echo across cities. If you analyze the police data against community reports of these mysterious gun deliveries, a disturbing correlation emerges. Neighborhoods where residents report finding weapon caches experience dramatic spikes in shootings in the following weeks and months. Some cities are attempting new strategies. Chicago has invested $1.4 billion to revitalize South and West Side communities disproportionately affected by gun violence. Baltimore recently partnered with Everytown for gun safety to track the flow of illegal guns into the city. The pattern is too consistent to ignore. Freight trains carrying weapons routinely stop in the poorest neighborhoods in America. Norfolk Southern, Union Pacific, CSX, all the major carriers move through these communities. Trains that could continue to their destinations instead sit idle for days, sometimes weeks, in yards with minimal security, broken fences, and easy access points. My question is this being done on purpose? Former railroad employees have reported on the unusual frequency of weapon shipments routed through high crime areas. Trains carrying firearms stop in the same neighborhoods repeatedly, following patterns that defy normal logistics. The rail companies cite track congestion, but the concentration of these stops in specific neighborhoods raises disturbing questions. The geographic pattern is unmistakable, and residents have noticed. These trains sit there like they're waiting to be broken into. No real security, no cameras that work, just crates of guns on rail cars. Railroad companies claim they're responding, increasing security and working with law enforcement, but community members report that these efforts are inconsistent at best. The security cameras don't work, the guards rarely patrol, the fences remain broken, and the trains keep coming, loaded with weapons, stopping in the same neighborhoods year after year. In some cases, the cargo is unloaded and left behind to be discovered. When we talk about gun violence in America, we focus on the shooters, on individual choice, on personal responsibility, which is all valid because you always have a choice, and if you make that wrong choice, then that's on you. But rarely do we examine the systems that make guns so readily available in our most vulnerable communities. Alright guys, that's gonna be it for today. Let me know what you guys think of this one in the comment section. Do you believe that these guns are just being brought in by train? Do you believe that the government is making these gun crates accessible to members of these communities? But I'm curious to hear what you guys think, so let me know in the comment section.